Okay, there's our lovely audience. So let's get rolling. Russian physiologist Ivan Pavlov famously discovered how to train dogs using a behavior and reward system. He would associate a certain kind of behavior or action, whether it be positive or negative, with a treat or punishment in order to get the dogs to do whatever it was he so desired. When I was in high school, I loved the song Mr. Blue Sky. It was one of my favorite songs, and I still think it's a fantastic song. But back in high school, I thought it would be a great idea to take that song and set it as my alarm in the mornings, so I'd wake up to a wonderful song. Yet, lo and behold, this became a terrible idea. Not long after I had set the song as my alarm, that I began to hate the song. Every time I would hear it, when I would listen to it for fun, I'd have a small heart attack, and the dread of waking up to go to school and get ready for the day would flood over me all over again. And in a sense, I Pavloved myself to have this response because the song was so intrinsically linked to the bad association of having to wake up, get out of my nice warm comfy bed, and get on with my day. Well, this is basically how we all learn everything that we do. From a very young age, our parents teach us how to do everything, from knowing what's good to knowing what's bad. We're taught to keep our hand away from the stove or it will get burned. But the idea of reward and response is how we learn everything. And one such reward and response practice used to condition children is spanking. I think this is a good thing. I think spanking is a helpful tool that lately has been deemed as bad and harmful and abusive to children. Yet I think this is a terrible misstep in our society, and we need to bring it back. We need to understand the importance and effects that spanking has on the good growth and benefit it can be towards a child's development. So in this presentation, I will give two main points concerning the benefits of spanking. I will cover the cause and effect of 4 distinct parenting styles, and I will give biblical support for spanking. I believe it is not only a good practice, but I think it is also supported by the Bible itself and commanded by our Creator God. So let's jump into the first point of 4 distinct parenting styles. I'll give you a brief rundown of each kind of parenting. We have authoritarian. This is kind of the drill sergeant-esque parenting style. They give strict rules and regulations on what a child can do and not do. They almost take away all sorts of decision-making from the child, and if they step out of line for even just a second, they receive a swift and often way too harsh punishment for any sort of misstep. The parent often tries to make the child like themselves. The permissive parenting style is often way too lenient in what they allow the child to do, often giving little to no guidelines whatsoever, and if any sort of corrective discipline is given, it's usually easily swayed by the slightest sort of, I promise I'll do better next time, or I'll be good next time, or whatever it may be. The child is often has a lot of sway over the parents. The uninvolved parenting style is basically what it sounds like. The parent is not involved whatsoever, if at all, involved very little, if at all, in the life of the child. So much so that the child is often expected to raise themselves, and the parent wants little or nothing to do with the child. The authoritative parenting style is what I believe to be the most biblical parenting style out of the 4, in that the parents not only give the children freedom to grow and make their own decisions, but also give good and healthy guidelines to guide them along their way, to show them what's good and what's bad, to be sure that they aren't taking their liberties too far, but are also living in a safe, controlled environment for the child to grow. To further break down these parenting styles, here's what research has shown to be the effects of these different parenting styles. Authoritarian parenting can often lead to poor social skills, low self-esteem, and indecisiveness. even things like poor anger management. Permissive parenting can lead to a lack of responsibility, anxiety and depression, impulsiveness, and lack of independence. Uninvolved parenting can often lead to substance abuse, delinquency, lower cognitive function, and diminished self-esteem. Even other things like delinquency, which is can result in a variety of different crimes. Right? Authoritative parenting often results very positively in close relationships with the parents, ability to regulate emotions, higher emotional maturity, and overall a more likely chance to be happy and successful in the long term. Now, how does this relate to spanking and discipline in the Bible? Well, as I said, the authoritative parenting style, I believe, is the most biblical, and I aim to show that with a few verses. I'm not going to read them all, but here are a few scripture references that support my point. In the Bible, there's a recurring phrase of this idea of the rod of discipline. Solomon talks a lot about it in the book of Proverbs. For example, Proverbs 22:15, foolishness is bound up in the heart of a child. The rod of discipline will remove it far from him. Proverbs 13:24, he who withholds his rod hates his son, but he who loves him disciplines him diligently. Proverbs 29:15, the rod and reproof give wisdom, but a child who gets his own way brings shame to his mother. Some more implicit lessons that also speak of the benefits of discipline. Hebrews 12:11, all discipline for the moment seems not to be joyful, but sorrowful. Yet those who have been trained by it afterwards, it yields the peaceful fruit of righteousness. Colossians 3:21, fathers, do not exasperate your children, so they will not lose heart. As you can see, the rod is often talked about as a harmful but ultimately beneficial tool in the life of a child and believer, either used by the Father, like earthly fathers, or our Father in heaven. A common phrase used among Christians is spare the rod and spoil the child. This comes from the many examples found in Proverbs of that exact teaching. However, as we read in Colossians, parents mustn't abuse this responsibility, but be careful to correct in love. As the psalmist calls the man who God chastens, bless. Psalm 23 speaks lovingly of God's corrective discipline. His rod and his staff comfort the rider. Though it may seem harsh, as evidenced by the four parenting styles and the very words of God, spanking is sometimes a necessary response to bad behavior in kids. However, we must use it responsibly, never discipline in anger, and be sure that when discipling our children, we never forget to tell them how much we love them. Thank you.